Hi. So today on Junkyard Digs, you join me here underneath the rear end of the LeMans for a very specific reason. Today we are doing the rear axle and rear suspension. Something I've been not really looking forward to for a while now because of this right here. This is an 8.2 inch GM rear axle used in Buicks, Olds, and Pontiacs. I believe, don't quote me here, but mostly Pontiacs out of those three options. This axle is a 10 bolt, but it is smaller than the 8.5 inch ring gear 10 bolt that you see in most Chevrolets. And therefore it is weaker. And it will not survive behind 462 cubic inches of Buick big block sitting up front. It's going to explode. On top of that, it's already shot. I would literally need to rebuild this and replace all the bearings and everything because it's been flooded. Finding parts isn't the hardest thing ever, it's just that I still have this crappy axle in here when I'm done rebuilding it. Beyond that, the gear ratio options for this axle are not good. There's nothing near what I would like, which is somewhere around 3 1/4 or 323, somewhere right around there. Finding a set of those for this axle is not only difficult, but really expensive. By the time I have this thing rebuilt, I will have a weak axle that's gonna cost me about $800, which is ridiculous. Or I could go out and buy a Chevy 10 bolt like an 8.5 inch and hope it survives. But again, I'm gonna have $1,000 into it by the time I purchase it and rebuild it. So it's just not feasible. The other issue we have under here, this rear suspension. Right now I have the springs from the front end cut and just shoved in here just for height, see how everything lines up. And it's a pogo stick, obviously, but that's about the same diameter spring as the wagon springs we're gonna put in. I don't want this driving down the road. This thing is an absolute pogo stick right now. My original idea is to just throw really big springs in it, blah, it'll be taller. It does make it taller. The suspension geometry goes full potato, and the ride quality goes double potato, so we have to do something here. Now, you may be wondering, Kevin, what's your solution for all this? Well, I'll tell you. Local companies, once again. This car is mostly built from companies in Ames, which I honestly love, because I love supporting local companies. However, this time, these are not just any small ma and pa shops down the road. These guys are heavy hitters in the industry, and they just happen to be here in Ames and a couple hours north. Let's go see what we got sitting up front. So what we have here, two company names you're probably familiar with. Ladies and gentlemen, QA1 and Quick Performance. Yeah, you heard that right. I said Quick Performance as in the guys that build those crazy 9-inch Ford axles, and QA1 is in the leader in suspension. Now what we have in front of us here is an entire coilover system for the rear of this car to convert to coilover shocks and springs. We have single adjustable custom length shocks that are taller than regular. That are gonna give us that proper shock extension length, as well as adjustable spring loads and damping rates for the rear end of this car, help keep it on the ground. And usually when people say that, they mean keep the car planted. No, I mean when it goes in the air, it can come back down and survive. So a bit of an oddball project here for QA1, but they stepped up to the plate and they're like, yeah, let's do it. This is what we got. Sitting next to that is a Ford 9-inch rear end with a custom fab center section from Quick Performance. This is the same axle you'll find in farm truck. It's literally the same housing. They have a backing plate on theirs now. After running it for 6 years, they decided to put one of those on. But same axle. This housing has the fill and drain holes, as well as the jack pad. It's set up for an A body. We've got spring perches if we ever need to go back to springs. We've got the QA1 mounts down here. We have end caps to run our GM brakes so that those brakes are replaced. I don't have to re-replace. We got 31 spline axles, a nodular center case with a helical differential inside, and a 3.25 axle ratio. So that's gonna be perfect for this car. Heading down the highway, heading on the trails, whatever we do, this thing's gonna take the abuse. Honestly, the big concern for these guys was the fact that we're running 31s on this car, and what apparently kills 9-inch rear ends is tire shake. Will pop the centers out. So they're like, yeah, we're gonna put some big stuff on this. to hang on to those 31s and make sure you don't have any issues when sitting behind 450 foot-pounds of torque or whatever that's making. Maybe it's 40 pounds, I don't know. But that's gonna live regardless. So yeah, that is what's on today's agenda. We're gonna rip out the old 8.2, put the Ford 9-inch in, put the QA1 suspension in, get this rear end buttoned up, good to go, get some drive shaft measurements, get a drive shaft in this, and then do the transmission mounts, and the drivelines done. Like, ready to drive. Have you guys ever been curious what it looks like for someone to paint an axle really, really fast? If not, too bad. Here it is. Zing! Done. That was pretty cool, huh? Want to see me do it again with axle shafts? Hey, Mook, help me out on this one. Zing! Oh, wow. It just gets better and better. Yeah, this was the low side of the car where all of the rust accumulated and made everything potato. Alright, let's get you guys a closer look at how bad the rust is in here. I don't know how well you can see it, but it goes all the way down the length of the axle tube. Just 1,000 miles of rust in there. Yeah, there you go. So, that's junk. That's why we have a new one. Alright, rear end should be good to drop. We're still a little hung up on that lower bushing, but that can be okay. So the time has come to assemble our Quick Performance 9-inch Ford rear end. The car is ready to receive its new axle. The paint is all done on the axle. These end plates have been cleaned up and painted, and they're all dry and ready to go. And now I got some anti-seize in here for the bearing. I had to go in with a die grinder and round out this hole. Now, if you don't want to go through all the work of cleaning this and milling this out yourself, you can buy this entire thing assembled with new brakes with your axle from Quick Performance. I decided to save a couple bucks since I had already put new pads and drums and everything on. So I just got the adapters, left the brake stuff off, took these off, wire wheeled them, painted them up, and they're going back on now. Zing. There's our brake plate. Before I toss our new axle shafts in here, just take a quick look at the size difference between the 9-inch Ford and the 8.2-inch GM. So obviously, just from looking at it, this is a much stronger, higher performance axle. It's got larger bearings. It doesn't neck up or down for the splines like this one does. It's just all around. It's going to take all the abuse we can throw at it, and then about 2 times over. I foresee no issues with this ever, which is perfect because we cannot afford to have mishaps off-road and a broken axle when we're out gambling somewhere in the woods, 10 miles from civilization. If you don't upgrade your 8.2 rear end, you're gonna have a bad time. So, we're just gonna find our splines. There they are. Now we take a retainer plate, drop that in from the top, slip them over our T-bolt studs, and torque everything down to 30 foot-pounds. And this sucker is ready to go in the car. Alrighty, so now that our Quick Performance axle is ready to rock, it's time to get into the meat and potatoes of our QA1 package here. Like I said, this is the rear coilover suspension conversion kit for these A-body GMs. When you order this kit, it comes with, of course, 2 single or double, whatever you select upon ordering, 2 shocks, 2 springs. These are custom length shocks, so we're gonna have a couple extra parts here. This is the install kit for all the brackets and whatnot to mate to the stock suspension. Over here is what we need to convert these over to ball ends. I need to do some figuring out because Quick Performance provided us with these brackets here to just simply bolt up, because these have, this axle we ordered the custom QA1 mounts here to meet up with all that, so that should be pretty straightforward. I definitely need these for the top. I don't know if I need these. I don't know, there's a lot of stuff here, a big old pile of bolts. We're gonna figure it out one bit at a time, and thankfully there's this pile of instructions. So QA1 really makes everything easy. There's a bunch of stuff about geometry and whatnot in here, and of course on their website and on their YouTube channel they have where you can go check out on their channel a bunch of stuff and learn stuff about shock selection and whatnot, and a little more in-depth of the products they sell. And on their website I'm sure they have lots of information as well. They are your best bet when it comes to this, when you want to make one purchase and do everything. Oh hey!
What, mate?
How's it going?
All pretty good. The truck now has back brakes.
What is that?
Oh, this is the split line. It's got like 3 holes in it. I even flared it and then I put it back in. And then it blew another hole and I was like, oh, let's put a whole new piece in. Fixed.
It is now Sunday night, the last day of our weekend here, and we got pizza and beer in us. Luke's here, John's here. I don't think I've actually introduced this man yet. This is like Morgan Woolen 2 or Larry Enticer. Depends on if he's wearing the denim jacket. This is a true blue American right here.
I thought I was pretty trailer park.
Anywho, under the car, we're all ready to roll. We have our Qa1 Upper Brackets installed for the coilovers. They're pretty easy. Drilled a single hole through 3 bolts on each side, ready to go. We still need to do our Quick Performance Qa1 mounts on this side, but we're gonna do that once the axle's hung so that we know what angle geometry we need. So I guess we throw this sucker in, and the LeMans finally gets Ford parts.
Oh, it'll probably be perfect now.
Absolutely. This is a pretty monumental moment.
Oh, more paint?
Don't worry about the paint. Alrighty, so it's literally been a week since I was last here. School was one hell of a time, but we're back under the LeMans right now. We got the QA1 uppers in place. We're gonna bolt everything up there, and then we just match these to the top of the axle, right over yonder. Bolt up our lowers, and we throw the coilovers on. It's just that easy. It's about 1, 2, 4, carry the 1, about 12 bolts. What? Bam. Coilovers. Let's get these in. Alrighty, it is a beautiful Iowa summer day out there. By summer, I mean it's early March, but we're having some great weather. The axle is all bolted in place here. Everything's torqued down the spec. We got our QA1 uppers in place. The drums are on. Gave the lowers a quick shot of paint just to match until we can get some stiffer lowers later, but just for now this should be fine. Everything's looking good. The only things I got left are the brake lines and the coilovers themselves, which the paint is drying right now. But these coilovers are built as you saw. They look excellent. They're nice and tall. Gonna give us pretty much everything we've ever wanted. Now you might be wondering, Kevin, why did you go with these QA1 uppers? First of all, we need the adjustability. Since we went up, our geometry of the axle is going to lean forward, and our pinion was pointing pretty much straight down. So we need to be able to adjust that, roll that axle back to get that pinion angle to match up with the trans. And the other reason why I went with the QA1 brand is because of how nice and stiff they are, and they got great adjustability. These are the originals. I can squish this with my hand. I can literally deform these with the weight of my body. These were never gonna handle well on anything. So that is why QA1 does the full boxed and reinforced uppers and lowers. The uppers, as you can see, are a turnbuckle, and the lowers are boxed. Those are not it. Those are the OEMs. So definitely an absolute handling package that you should look for. Obviously, if you're looking to lift a car, you're gonna have those uppers to fix that pinion angle. But if you're looking to make some corners really nice, you're gonna need the lowers too to get rid of this floppiness. QA1 is nice because they have everything you can need in one click. Doink, you have everything for if you want to do just the rears to a stage 1, 2, 3, the front stage 1, 2, 3, whatever you wanna do. It can all be done in one purchase, and everything bolts together because these guys are the leaders in the industry and they really know what they're doing. All right, all of our brake lines have been rerouted to run through some holes I got up here. Everything's secure, got some rubber line protecting everything. The other shock's in. The last step for this rear end is to get this guy in over here, and then we're good to go. Man, I tell you, having nice parts makes everything so much easier when they're made to go together. I need to get our Quick Performance QA1 mount locked properly. Looks good. Turn our shock all the way counterclockwise to release all of the dampening so we can move this around just fine to set a ride height once everything's together. And then put the last bolt in. Alright, there we are. God, that looks good. Well, there it is. There's our Quick Performance 9-inch Ford rear end. Buckled up next to our QA1 coilover conversion kit. I got a little bit of geometry to change here and there between a couple things. I had to clearance a couple parts because, you know, usually people go down when they put these kits on cars, but I went up and it required custom shock lengths and a couple things were different than usual. So I've been working for the last half hour here to get my ride height dialed in, and I will tell you, this jack pad, I didn't think it would be that significant, but it is the most amazing thing ever. Like, look at that. Boop, up goes the car, perfectly centered. It's perfectly weighted. I don't have to worry about anything. I just put the jack there and I go, and it's awesome. And in the center of that is actually the drain for the rear end. And as I discussed earlier, there's a fill up here as well. This little silver guy. And that's gonna help me really easily fill this rear end once I get everything dialed in. Everything looks amazing. Got all our QA1 parts in place. The 9-inch looks nice and sexy. This rear end and suspension setup looks absolutely beefy as hell and so badass. I'm afraid now that someone's gonna steal the entire ass out of my car and just leave the rest of the car because, you know, it's made out of license plates. I don't think these companies have ever had something so nice next to something made out of license plates, but here it is. Welcome to Junkyard Digs, guys. Hi. I'm sure the cast here changes pretty much every time I turn the video on.
Literally every time.
Every time I go on the camera, there's someone different here because like 3 days pass in between each one.
Yeah.
You've been drinking today, sir?
Well, hang on. Gelato.
Oh no, it's gelatoed itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the finished product. We have our ride height dialed in with our QA1 single adjustable shocks. I got them adjusted to 3 clicks for now. I'm not sure where we want them, but we're gonna put them right there. I have forgotten to mention this whole time that this is QA1's new black coilover spring. Previously, they've never had a black coilover spring. So this is actually the debut of their new product right here on Junkyard Digs, which is pretty cool. So all in all, everything looks absolutely amazing down here. We're gonna fill this sucker up with some oil and re-bleed the brakes because I had to redo a brake line on that side. And I guess get some measurements for the drive shaft and get that sucker ordered in because it's trans mounts and drive shaft, and then this thing is a complete car to the point that it can drive, which is insane because every single component on this car I have touched or replaced at this point for the drive line. Actually, for the whole car. Hi.
Hi.
So it's been all
Years.
of a month since I was last working on Smokey doing the rear axle. And I don't remember if we shot an outro or anything, but we have a drive shaft here now. We have all sorts of new problems and solutions since then. We have a house, a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm like a million days behind on editing everything, but we're finally getting back into the swing of it. I don't know if I even addressed this, but when we left off, we had a geometry issue with the upper end of the shocks. Now this one's been fixed already, and this one has not. And I'm going to show you what we were dealing with. So with the stock mounts from Quick Performance, they were a little short, and it brought our shock body in close like this, which is fine. I like that, so that it tucks everything nice and up out of the way. But what the issue was up here, and you can see that the angle of that mount versus the angle of that shock mount is ridiculous. It might be okay, but I don't like that at all, because that bushing is beyond its normal service angle, and it's going to wear out real nice and quick. So what we have for a solution is a bearing that QA1 sent that slips into their shocks, and it gives us plenty of play, and it's designed to operate at much more extreme angles. I think up to like 35 degrees or something. I don't know, it's been a month. But now I can rotate the shock freely. It's not binding at all. This one, I can't turn at all because the upper bushing being under so much stress. So our dependability and reliability of this has now gone way higher, and we are going to survive just fine with beating on this and not having to change out bushings in 100 miles. So I'm going to go ahead and put the other bushing in the other shock, and then we're good to go, and the rear end is done. Now, usually I should mention that when you buy a set of shocks or the rear coilover suspension conversion kit for a QA1, you probably won't have to deal with any of this at all, because you're probably not building this. You're probably going to go down and try to handle better instead of make your car go up and handle worse, like myself. Like I mentioned earlier, this was a custom.
Custom? We got custom shocks? Custom springs?
Yeah. Mike Tyson over here. They were a custom length stock body with a different set of rod ends in the top, where usually they come with everything correct out of the box, and it's all plug and play.
But this is custom.
God dang it. Well, there it is. We have a drive shaft from Dynamic Drivelines in Des Moines. We have QA1 coilover suspension in the back, and we have an axle from Quick Performance, all tucked up in this LeMans. It's never looked better. It's never performed better. Everything is as strong as it needs to be to hold on to these 31s and live behind that 462 Buick. So that's gonna wrap it up for this episode of Junkyard Digs. Whoop, I about died. Huge thank you to all the companies that were a part of this episode. We got some great parts in this thing, and I am really excited to see how well they perform in. And I'm sure you guys are too if you're looking to do something similar. So kind of a plug and play method we got here now.
I'm excited.
So make sure you guys stick around to see the rest of this build. Subscribe to all our friends: Thunderhead 289, Junkyard Mook, Deboss Garage, Dylan McCool, Classic Mustangs 429, Cars and Cameras, Vice Grip Garage, Uncle Tony's Garage. All those, there's a lot of garage people I see now.
Yeah.
Junkyard Mook Garage, Mook Garage.
Garage of Chaos.
Oh yeah, not bad. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Peace.